Hi, this is CB, and this tutorial is going to cover how to make a very soft black and white portrait type looking photo out of an ordinary photo actually. This is a great technique I think for unifying your photos. If you have several photos that were, of maybe your kids at different times or something, but you want it to all look very unified. I think if you did this to all your photos and maybe even collage them a bit by layering them and blending them on the same layer with erasing some extra parts, you could have a very nice collage look. So this is the sort of look we're going to end up with. But we're going to actually start with, I'm going to get rid of those real fast, we're going to start with just a plain photo here. I have a photo of my son that was taken at the state fair. And I'm going to use this as a good example of how you've got a lot of background here that I don't really want in the photo. I just want the photo to be about him in this case. So the first thing to do is do a black and white conversion. And if you look over here at my layers palette, I did a gradient map adjustment layer. You go into the adjustment layer. By the way, this is PSE 6. But this works the same in Photoshop as well as other versions of Photoshop elements too. Works really great. So for a quick black and white adjustment, a black and white conversion, I like to use a gradient map adjustment layer. This is just really fast. It gives a pretty good amount of contrast, more so than just desaturating. And I would hit OK, and that's why I have that there. Then I would right-click, or if you can't right-click, there's the shortcut. I think it's Control plus E. I'm trying to remember. Either merge visible, or actually, since this was originally down here, it would be merged down. I would choose to make it a black and white conversion. So that's what I have right here on this version. It's the same thing, black and white conversion. So now the next step is to do what a little technique I like to call reverse spotlighting. And this was from a tutorial that I'd learned from the Photoshop guys about a year ago, not personally, but a online tutorial I'd watched where they did spotlighting, and I call this reverse spotlighting because we're going to, instead of darkening everything and putting a little spotlight on them, we're going to reverse it so where there's a lot of white and spotlighting on them. So that's done with the levels adjustment layer. So pick that, and then the first step of that will be go down to the output levels, take the little black triangle slider, slide it all the way over to the white light. The white light, it's white, and it's light, whatever. So over to the white side, hit OK. And now we have just plain white, but this is the adjustment that's given us just plain white, and this is the layer mask that goes with it. We're going to work with this layer mask so that we can see enough of the picture below it. The first thing, of course, I need to be able to see the picture below it to have a reference point here. So I'm going to, on this level layer, I'm going to pull the adjustment layer's opacity down to about 50, 60. Doesn't really matter where exactly. And I'm going to paint on this layer mask. I've talked about this in another tutorial, but I'm going to mention it real quick, that when you work with a layer mask, anything that is white on this mask will have the layer, whatever's happening on this layer will be what you see. When you have black painted on this mask, it lets this layer below show through, basically. So click on here. We're going to get a paintbrush, and I've already got one. Set it to make sure your foreground color is black. I'm going to pull the opacity of this brush back up for the moment up to 100, and it likes to do that to me every time I do that. Isn't that nice? So let's click on that to make sure it's the highlighted layer that we're actually painting on the layer mask. It's very important to have this selected when you paint so that you're not just painting black over your photo. And as you can see, when I start to brush on here, the picture starts darkening, and if you look at the thumbnail, that's where this black that you're painting is actually going. So I'm just going to do this enough to get a good starting point, and I'm going to raise the opacity now of this layer back up to 100. And you can see now how we've got that white, a lot of white edges, but we're getting now to see the picture underneath it because the thumbnail's layer mask is showing. So I'm going to do it very, very roughly here, and I don't really have time in this tutorial to go over it. But what you'll do is, if you, for instance, have too much edge here and you want to have it be more white again, then just reverse your colors and start. I like to actually tap with a very soft edge brush. I think I may not have mentioned that, but as you can see, the edges of this brush are blurry. This is just the default set from PSE 6. Just start tapping in edges. You can also shrink your brush. I'm using the left bracket key to shrink and tap in here just a little bit around the edge. You'll want to, it's going to take some time to play with it, but you want a very soft look. So that's what I have on this third one here, is basically one that I'd played around with for a while and gotten a very soft look for. It's not perfect, but it's going to be, once we do the next step, it'll be better. And the next step is to copy this layer. I like to say jump to an extra layer, and that's Control plus J or Command plus J on a Mac version. That the jump, that's why I say J. It just helps me remember. It's not a technical term there. So I have another layer to work on, and we're going to run the diffuse glow filter, which is under Distort. It will come up, and I've already picked some settings that look good with this particular photo. You will have to play around with them a little bit. We've got a graininess here. I didn't want any grain. The glow amount is just a little soft. Clear amount up in the high thing. The higher this number is, the darker actually everything will be. And I'm going to hit OK. Let it run the filter. And now you can see the difference in these two layers, how it's much more softened edges, more, giving it even more of a glow look. The last step I want to do is I'm going to change, I could stop here, but I'm going to change the tone of the black a little bit more to make it a little more warmer. I did that by, if you see up here, I just picked an adjustment layer of solid color, and I typed in, these particular numbers worked well for me, 140 for the red, 135 for the green, and 125 for the blue, and that's this warm taupey silver color. And the only last step to do is go in to change the blend mode of this to color, and that's cut off the screen. It's the last four choices right under this difference and exclusion. It says hue, saturation, color, and luminosity. Change it to color, and then you see that goes through there. So there's the difference in tone. You can see a little bit better. And I just think I love this technique, as I said, for making a regular photo look a little bit more portraity, and as I say, it's great for unifying photos too. I just think the things you can do within Photoshop and Photoshop elements are just really neat, and this is just one of those special things to do. I'm CB, and I hope this has helped you. Thanks for watching.